The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ. Happy Monday.
Yeah, it is Monday in the Riv after a weekend in the Riv. So we got a lot to talk about. 1 week and a wake up from the primary election.
And 1 week till the sentencing.
That's right.
1 week until the sentencing.
Yes.
1 week till the sentencing.
Well, that's a good segue into probably what we should lead with today, the sentencing of Jasiel. We had quite an article about it, and looks like the prosecution wants to nail him to the wall.
Nail him to the cross. You got it. Well, here's what they're asking for. In the sentencing memorandum filed this past Friday, federal prosecutors asked for 132 months incarceration. That's 11 years. 24 months supervised release. $298,190 in restitution to certain snow owl investors. $20,473 in restitution to the IRS. $566,740 in forfeiture, and a mandatory special assessment of $2,100. Now, the snow owl people who are going to get their money are Dr. David Cavaceres, who's going to get $145,000, $70,000 to Miller, $25,000 to Mark Eisenberg, $25,000 to Victor Martinez, and $33,190 to Carl Garcia. Now, here's the interesting thing about this, okay? If you remember, I believe it was Coster and Cabral also made some investments into Snow Owl, and they have been excluded from restitution because they were part of the conspiracy. Isn't that interesting? So,
but
crime doesn't pay.
But fair. Yeah, it's nice to know that they're not going to get a rebate and when they were participants. So, well, I guess, and I think the statement was pretty damning. Didn't they write a statement about why this was a betrayal, and they even quoted the Rough Rider Teddy Roosevelt there.
Yes, they did, and
it would be interesting to read that for the public.
I'm getting it right now. There can be no crime more serious than bribery. Other offenses violate one law, while corruption strikes at the foundation of all law. Under our form of government, all authority is vested in the people. Oh, I wonder where I heard that before.
Yeah.
And by them delegated to those who represent them in official capacity. There can be no offense heavier than that of him in whom such a sacred trust has been reposed, who sells it for his own gain and enrichment, and no less heavy is the offense of the bribe giver. He is worse than the thief, for the thief robs the individual, while the corrupt official plunders an entire city or state. That's from President Teddy Roosevelt, December 7th, 1903, in his statement to Congress.
Wow. Yeah. The Rough Rider was pretty, he made some great speeches, hyphenated Americans, and the quote about the Roman Republic losing the Rome because the voters stopped voting. Yeah, Roosevelt was quite the president. He was one of the few presidents who really showed that it was all about America. Speak softly, carry a big stick. He also brought the judo champion of Japan. A lot of people, little known fact, brought the the judo champion of Japan, to the White House for a year to train in judo. He had a boxing ring in the White House. He was he was vitally savage and mentally civilized. He was an outdoorsman and he was a very weak and frail asthmatic child, but one of our greatest presidents, in my opinion. So, if not him and Lincoln are probably the two greatest, in my opinion, that we've ever seen. But
well, here's the interesting part of this whole sentencing recommendation. The prosecutors honed in on Correia's lack of remorse, noting that after the trial, Correia told reporters gathered that there were no facts that were brought forward. There was no overwhelming evidence, quote unquote. And he will be vindicated when, quote, the real truth, unquote, came out, and that he falsely stated that he was offered a plea deal but rejected it because he was not guilty. Because he has shown no remorse, prosecutors said, quote, the need for individual deterrence in this case is greater than most.
Yeah, and that's kind of true, because no matter what it was, he denied whether it was Snow Owl. What did he say? Oh, I wasn't the treasurer. I was young. But he's always finds a reason to rationalize why it's not his fault. So, and that's the thing. And they better be careful, because that's a sentencing recommendation.
That's right.
Everybody has to remember that. The judge and Woodlock is notoriously a tough judge, and throughout the trial he did always refer to the betrayal of the citizens of Fall River. So who knows what's going to happen? I mean, he could get a stiffer sentence, he could get a lighter sentence, he could get anything, but it's going to be a very interesting, especially with this with this filing, because they kind of broke it down pretty well. And as you said, they didn't reward the people who were part of the conspiracy. They put it down in plain facts that he shows no remorse, and he doesn't. That is bordering on sociopathic behavior, because you just don't accept responsibility for anything. And I guess, he, in his mind, he truly thinks that he did nothing wrong. So even though they've got him,
dead to rights.
They put an overwhelming case in, thousands and thousands of pages, but he said there was no evidence. So I don't know. I guess his idea of evidence and most people's idea of evidence kind of a little different. So Fall River again gets into the news, and I'm sure when the sentencing is done, we'll be all over the news, national news, international news, and everything else. Because one thing that's always a big headline is corrupt politicians.
That's right. Every time you turn around, they always get it.
That's always a page one story.
Yep, it is. And believe me, it's not going to be time to start looking at things. But what was interesting was, and the Herald News did this, they made comparisons to other corrupt politicians, like former state senator Diane Wilkerson. She received 42-month sentence, but the memorandum noted that Wilkerson accepted responsibility for what she had done. Former Speaker of the House Salvatore De Masi received a 96-month sentence for taking $65,000 in bribe money from a Burlington software company. But prosecutors noted that De Masi's sentence was based entirely on corruption, while Correia was also convicted of stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars and cheating the IRS. Now, remember, how did they get Al Capone?
Yeah,
cheating the IRS.
Tax evasion.
Right.
You can't mess with the IRS. You might be able to beat a murder rap, but you're not beating the IRS. If you try to screw the IRS out of a penny, they're going to throw you in. They'll throw you in jail. So
here was something in the memorandum that I couldn't quite understand, because in the memorandum it said that Correia has the benefit of a supportive family, a good education, a well-paying job. So there is no justification or explanation other than greed and hubris for what he did. Now, right now, I don't know what type of well-paying job he has. He's always had a supportive family. There's no question about that. And let's be real, he went to Providence College, not a cheap school.
Yeah. And a fairly well-respected school too. It's not a, it's not a degree mill, and although they all are now, I guess, with some of the courses they're teaching now. But no, he said he had an education, he had a family, had a good job. For somebody who really had never had any gainful employment except maybe a shoe salesman or something like that, part-time, but really never had a full-time job that paid anything, to become the mayor of the city of Fall River and have the salary attached to that, and and a future in politics. There was really no reason to do what he did, and but it's kind of like the Herald is putting together a case to give him a stiffer sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, look, these people admitted they were wrong, and they showed some remorse, and they didn't show hubris, and they got, pretty lengthy sentence to Damasi, 96 months. That's a lot of time.
Right.
And but then again, we've had so many of them. It's going to be interesting to see. We'll be watching, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of commentary on it after the fact.
Yep. The sentencing hearing is Monday, a week today, September 20th, the day before the primary, at 11 a.m. And while they're still going to have the sentencing available via Zoom, I'm assuming, because they're still doing the Zoom hearings, it is going to be a limited number of people that's going to be able to let into that meeting. I'm not sure what their cap is, but I know that I'm probably going to log into that while we're waiting to go on our show, and it'll be in the background running while I'm waiting to get on the air.
Well, I think I will be in Boston that day, on the 20th. I have a doctor's appointment at 11:15. So let me check my calendar here.
You'll have to put it on your cell phone and watch it.
I will be on 11:15. So unfortunately, I will miss the live. I'll try to get it on my phone, but
I would say get it on your phone, because remember, there's no recording.
Yeah.
So there's no recorded feed.
It will be a very interesting, I'm sure, sentencing. And
don't worry, I'll be keeping you updated via text.
there will be obviously there will be a lot of post sentencing scrutiny, and there'll be an appeal, of course.
He's already filed the appeal.
I know,
but I don't know if he's going to get it. I don't know if he's going to get it, because remember, at the end of the trial, the judge complimented both attorneys for the excellent job they did. Both attorneys complimented the judge on the fair and excellent job that he did. The prosecution congratulated the defense, and the defense congratulated the prosecution. It was like the good old boy network. Everyone was shaking hands and kissing babies.
That's
okay?
Right.
So with all of that being said, how can he say it's ineffective counsel?
Well, not only that, didn't he deny a motion to allow Reddington to step away?
Yes, he did.
So there again, that's another aspect of the case that you say, well, you know what the appeal was going to be. Counsel did not give him adequate representation, but that's obviously the judge and everybody else was satisfied. So I think that's going to be, as you said, they filed an appeal. I don't know if that appeal will fly. That appeal may be denied, and like I said, it's just going to be, this is better than a soap opera. I can't wait to find out what he gets because I predicted 12 to 15. I was off by a year on a low end. My low was 12, but he's still got two years of supervised
Probation.
So it's really like, well, you can't. He's not incarcerated, but I figured he'd get 12 minimum. But hey, I was off a year, so maybe he will. Who knows? Woodlock might throw the book at him. He might give him 20.
Remember, it's a recommendation. It's not. Right. It's not the sentence. And Woodlock has thrown out recommendations. Look at what he did to Jen Andrade.
Yep.
So
we'll see. But
it's not like it hasn't happened with Woodlock before.
No, he is a tough judge, and I had one of the best attorneys in the state tell me that when I mentioned his name and he asked me who was the judge, and he went, "Oh, good judge, but extremely tough sometime on sentencing." So
right,
it is what it is. So I guess we're gonna switch over to what's happening in a Riv now.
We had another shooting. Sunset Hill.
Wow.
And
there's an oldie but a goodie. Sunset Hill.
And they went and found the shell casings. They went looking for the shell casings and they found them. So again, another shooting. Hey, Mr. Mayor, what are you doing about that shooting? Are you going to put movies on now down at Sunset Hill?
Yeah, well, the people that are doing the shooting probably are not going to the movies, and but as I said, it's about transparency. Even if he is doing something, why keep it secret?
Right.
The public, as you just read, and as we've said ad nauseum on this show, when we read part of the first Section 5 of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts' Constitution, they are our representatives. We are the government. And as Teddy Roosevelt so aptly put it in front of Congress in 1903, they forget that. And he talked about he's talking about it again during a campaign, and he's the least transparent mayor. But ironically, I was watching something on the federal level on TV, and there was a discussion about the Biden administration, and Blinken's going to be on this afternoon at 2:00, I guess. That ought to be fun. But a comment was made by one of the reporters who was talking about transparency, and they said that, there's no transparency in the Biden White House, but he made a very, very astute observation. He said they don't like transparency because with transparency comes responsibility, and with responsibility comes accountability. So there's the problem. They don't want to be transparent because you can say, well, now you're going to be responsible to do what you say you're going to do. And you also are going to be held accountable if you don't do it. So we see why this is basically de facto government. They don't do anything. They just, another shooting. Okay. Another shooting. We're getting like Chicago. There's 40, 50 shootings, all kinds of homicides every weekend. And about every other weekend, maybe once a month, you might hear about Chicago now when a child is killed. It's becoming routine. Crime in Fall River. This is one of the primary things about having a society, having a city that you can walk the streets. You don't think that it should be a priority to tell the public what you're doing? To have meetings. Now, I know you can have the neighborhood meetings and show movies and stuff. It's not just saturating police. What are we doing? What are we doing to stem the gang problem? What are we doing to stem the drug problem? Excuse me. And these things are critical for having a decent place to live. You want to talk about Fall River, and you want to talk about it with your banker friends and your lawyer friends, all of whom live either in the North End or out of town, while the rest of the city, and you're trying to bring people into this city with his shootings are routine. It's just not, to me, that's not government. That's lack of government.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's very interesting. And while you're talking about the quality of life in the city, the quality of life in the Elsbree Street area is again making its ugly head. You've experienced it. But this message just came across to me. Great job, Mayor and City Council of Fall River, for rushing the new Durfee High School without any parking, and for changing the high school start time to follow more in line with the other two schools that are a quarter of a mile away. You've now just created the worst traffic jam 5 days a week from your own stupidity. A mayor who used to be on the school council who doesn't understand. And, you know, it's interesting because Jasiel Correia turned around and said the school was being done before he was elected mayor. And yet again, let's just blame the mayor for everything. Well, Jocelyn, yes, we are going to blame the mayor because the mayor was the advocate and the lobbyist for this school. He served on the school committee when they decided on where to put the school. And he was on the school committee when they decided to, again, make only one high school for Fall River instead of two. Because you know what? The south end of Fall River, he don't care about. The hell with you. There. Who cares? It was the same thing they did when they built the old Durfee High School. They said, the heck with him. Because, quote unquote, they didn't want to have the two schools competing against each other.
Well, you know, CJ, I mean, look, you're gonna have his minions blame the mayor. Well, you know, the buck stops here. Remember what Harry Truman said.
Yeah.
You're the mayor. And not only is he the mayor, but he was a school committeeman. He was an educator. He was there. As you said, they selected the site. Who the hell puts a school like almost on the sidewalk? They couldn't have set it back. And now Elsbree Street, it shouldn't have been built there in the first place. We were against the debt exclusion. We were also against even locating it in that area. You got Bristol. You think the traffic is bad now? They better hope COVID, and I know they want it to stay here forever, the Dems. But you better hope COVID stays forever. Because do you remember when Bristol Community College was in full swing?
Yeah.
And they opened, there wasn't enough parking space. And there's a lot of parking space at Bristol Community College. They were parking on the grass. They were parking all over the place. There's so much traffic there. And then you got Bishop Conley across the street, literally across the street. The entrance to Conley is right across from the Durfee property. So now you've got three schools. And what do? They obliterate a center lane. It was bad enough when Elsbree Street, you could actually have 2 lanes of traffic after you got to a certain point going both ways. They took the entire length of the new Durfee High School, and now it's crosshatched, yellow crosshatch. Nobody can use it. They've reduced Elsbree Street to 1 lane in both directions. I mean, talk about a pack of fools. I mean, what are they smoking at those meetings? When I drove up there before I got into the traffic jam, I looked at those crosshatches when I was driving up there on a weekend, because you know I go up there all the time to walk the dog. And but I mean, I looked at that and I said, what the hell were they thinking? What are they thinking? They took 2 lanes out of that road. That's a nightmare under when it's got 4 lanes that you can use. I'll tell you, what a pack of boneheads. You know, they're just like the federal government. They can't do anything except they'd screw up a one-man parade. That's how bad they are.
Well, I'm glad that I'm not going up there, but the interesting thing is, and the school department and the mayor think it's okay. This traffic jam is impeding businesses, because what's happening is parents are pulling into the parking lot of Bank 5 and CVS, and they're filling up that parking lot waiting for their kids to get out of school.
Yeah.
So that's impeding business. So what kind of economic development is that, Mr. Mayor? Have you considered that?
Yeah. And how about another little fact? Public safety.
Right.
What happens if there has to be an emergency response on Elsbree Street when the traffic's backed up to the rotary at Eastern Avenue,
right,
and President Avenue?
I was just told by our producer that they closed the parking lot, shopping center parking lot, this morning. What are they going to do? Close it in the morning and in the afternoon? I don't know, but it's a good thing they stopped it, I guess.
It's absurd.
But this is how they have to do business.
Habit. How is an ambulance or a fire truck or a police vehicle going to get through there when it's a parking lot? It looks
That's
like
right.
Boston in the morning.
Oh, I know.
So it's like, there's no. And by the way, you said that whoever that was writing it, they blamed the city council. The city council didn't have anything to do with this. Blame the school committee. School committee, who's all the mayor's buddies, the gang of 4, the people that protected a predatory superintendent, and 3 of which thankfully decided not to run. Although there is rumors that one of them is going to run for mayor in 2 years. So that's another rumor out there in the rumor mill. But I mean, just look at it. This is government at its best. They could screw up a one-man parade, just like they did in Afghanistan, leave them 85 to 90 billion, the jury's out, in weapons to our enemies. So that anything that you let the government do, this is why I'm an advocate of small government. I'd like to see no government. It couldn't get any worse, but small for sure. But I'll tell you what, you watch these bozos in action.
Chaos.
Like they said, nothing happens.
One of our viewers just reminded me that the mayor said that the solution that he's considering for this problem is to instruct people to use Robeson Street and come down. I don't know if that's Valentine or whatever the name of that street is at the end, and then come in from the north end of Elsbree Street.
Come down Valentine.
Is that Valentine at the end?
The one at the end of Elsbree, the north end of Elsbree? Yeah.
But
have you ever been down Valentine? There's a stop sign every corner.
On every corner, right. He wants them to come down Valentine off of Robeson Street and then come south on Elsbree to the schools, and that should cut down on traffic. That's just going to block the traffic on both sides.
Listen, I'm going to tell you what, right now, I got the solution, CJ. It's 29. We got opera money. Let's get a giant lot where they can all go, and we can buy helicopters with the opera money and fly in the students like the first air cav.
Hey, shuttles would be a good thing too. Have off-site parking and use shuttles to bring them in. But again, if you're going to do that, you might as well just bust them all in. But kids today don't want that. They want their cars.
Well, remember what Groucho Marx said. Government is a thing that creates a problem where there is none, and that's what they've done.
That's it. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching. We're out of time, and as usual, there's always something to talk about. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay angry, hold your politicians accountable, and remember, it's an election cycle. It's a week and a day. See you then. Thanks for watching.